Can you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit more about your specialty in practice?
Sure, sure. So I am Amit Kalpee. I'm a urologist that's currently both UK and South African trained, and currently run a private practice in Cape Town, South Africa. And my interest is men with large prostates, BPH, and that's my focus of expertise.
How do you see the role of digital care and AI evolving specifically in the field of urology? Are these technologies improving patient outcomes? Are they helping you perhaps with other areas of your practice?
So from an AI perspective, I think the whole patient journey is going to be different, or is already transitioning to be different to what it used to be traditionally 10, 15, 20 years ago. From the interaction from patient booking, contact with the practice through WhatsApp or from email channels, automated booking, identifying patients that are at high risk that need to be seen sooner. Then from the actual practice day to day, from note keeping, having an AI tool in the practice to allow for digital note keeping is essential, and also sending referrals out to GPs and to the patients themselves. So you don't need to have someone to scribe for you. You have an AI generated scribe. And then from a urology perspective or a surgeon perspective, it's also important to be able um, to have good, accurate note keeping of operative notes and to have patients' contact details accessible. So from that perspective, AI is important. From other fields or other areas that there's much that I would foresee there will be growth into is actual procedures, automating procedures and helping to facilitate more in-depth understanding of how the procedure is going to help, or how you can educate patients about what procedures could do and how what they can foresee specifically in their circumstance of how they're going to be improving their life and their journey. So that's the idea, I think. So there's a lot of scope in AI.
Yeah, absolutely. But when you first started your medical practice and your private practice, what were some of the biggest hurdles that you faced and how do you overcome them?
Well, to be honest with you, there's always hurdles to face in a private practice. So I see a private practice as a startup, and I see myself as a founder. And the idea being that you need to be able to be adaptable and be able to reach out to patients and be able to present your product in the best possible way that you can. Being in a private practice is unique in that you have direct control over the patient journey, more so than in any other medical interaction. So you can control from the time the patient makes an appointment to the time that the patient is discharged from hospital and the review process. So I think it's important. The hurdles that you faced with is firstly to be able to make patients aware, make the public aware of the product you have, and put you up onto a pedestal so that if they are searching for what you have, your role is to give them the option of choosing you and to offering value in that proposition. So you have to be able to make yourself visible with a good website, to be able to be searchable, and that's key. The other hurdles would be to break through pathways and to understand, are most patients coming through the GPs, for example, in a South African environment, and very much like the UK environment, patients have a very strong relationship with GPs. And is it the GP that you need to contact as well to ensure that they have a pathway and you are trusted, reference point for that interaction? So that's key, I think. And it's an ongoing process. It's not as if it ever actually ends.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that analogy of like startup and founder. I really like that a lot. What key strategies have helped you successfully grow your private practice and how do you measure that growth?
So firstly, Abhay, I'm still far away from being 100%. I'm just scratching the surface. This is my 3.0. But okay, but more formally, what has so I think the important thing is being able to understand your referral pathways, what works, what doesn't work, be able to adapt to focus on pathways that do work and put that much more effort into it, ensuring that you're offering the best quality service you can, offering the best value you can, and also being able to understand what your market is about, to be able to understand that in this environment, this is what you should be charging for consultation. It's something as simple as that. You can't charge too low, neither should you charge too much. So it's a combination of factors makes you competitive in the environment that you're in. There's no point in focusing on avenues of referrals that don't produce any outcomes. So in a medical fraternity, as you're probably aware, we can't run Google ads or Facebook ads and things like that because that's not allowed. And we have to follow what the GMC or whichever health professional council that is in your area, you have to follow those rules, and it's understandable. But at the same time, if you have a certain value and a certain proposition that you know you can offer a patient, you need to be able to step up and be able to be found. That's your role. You need to be searchable. You need to be accessible. And you should be the first on the top of that list if they're looking for someone. It's your role. You have to make sure that you're right up there.
How do you differentiate your medical practice from others in the area, especially in terms of maybe perhaps branding or patient experience?
So I'm very focused in my practice in the sense that although I'm a urologist and I'm trained to deal with a whole spectrum of urological diseases and conditions and can perform numerous types of surgeries, because I have super specialized in one aspect of urology, the first aspect is to make it known that this is what you are an expert in without saying expert. This is what your expertise lies in. So that if you want to have the best possible experience, then you would want to go to an expert over a guy that does a whole range of different procedures. So that's how I see it. So that's the one way that you standing out. Like our name is Prostacare, which the focus is that it's involving what you offer. So you already have that introduced, and then with that branding, you have to have the right. It comes with that the right color scheme and the right type of patient demographic. Your website has to be focused on that. Everything has to be geared to allow for that. There's a whole spectrum of different aspects that go into it. But yeah, and it's constantly evolving in a medical practice. What you should be doing is seeing it as a startup, as a business. Although it's a business that is unique in that your role is to offer a particular value to patients, and it's not about meeting any deadlines or meeting any target goals. It's about offering the best possible service. And that's what it's about.
What systems have you put in place to streamline operations within the practice to reduce the time you spend on administrative tasks?
Okay. So from the very beginning, we have a rule in this practice that my staff and myself, we only do admin work at the office. So we don't take work home with us. So that's just a rule that we follow. And so if we start work at 8:30 and leave at 4, then we have automated email reply service. We have an automated WhatsApp reply to ensure that patients are aware of this. That's the role that we're trying to enforce. But from a purely an administrative perspective, when a patient comes into the practice and has a consultation with myself, we have a system in place, that an AI generated system that can allow us to generate a patient note without me needing to. So it's purely note keeping is done without me needing to put any input into it, and it can understand both the patient and myself and generate a note that I can immediately email to the patient and to the GP within a few seconds of the consult ending. So that burden is taken away. And then obviously the billing burden, that's automated as well, so that my staff are able to bill directly when the patient leaves my office, and that is communicated through the same software. So all of that helps us to ensure that the transition is clear. And Fridays is our admin day otherwise. So we don't book patients on a Friday, with the intention being that we have our team meeting, we look at strategies of how to improve things, we look at where our referrals have been in the last week, we do a bit of reflection as a team, and that helps us to plan for the next week. And you need that in your week structured in, so that it's not that you are suddenly waking up on Monday and discovering that you're doing the same thing over and over again. You have to work as a team and be able to readjust and realign things. So that's important.
Yeah, awesome, amazing. And also, you've also got a few team members on board, and I think hiring team is such an important part of like a prior practice, and it can make and break, I feel like, a lot of prior practices. And so I want to ask a question about that. So what are the most crucial roles to fill when growing a private medical practice, and how do you ensure you hire people who align with the practice's mission?
Right. So hiring is incredibly important. And it used to be that you just put a notice up on a notice board And whoever sees that will come for an interview, and you'll have maybe 2 or 3 people, and one of the three would be employed. But in this practice, what I've strategically done is I've resourced a recruitment company which is plugged into LinkedIn, plugged into all the other channels. I've given them a clear idea of who I'm looking for. And my strategy is firstly you need someone that is experienced in the medical field, ideally, someone that is willing to grow. You're looking for someone that is either early on in their career that is looking to scale, or an experienced person that has taken a bit of sabbatical and now wants to be plugged in. But you need to be geared for growth, and you have to be able to choose wisely. And in my process, I've employed two staff members, and in that period, I've gone through about 60 CVs. I've interviewed about 30 people, and in that process, I've got a list of special questions that I ask that digs below the surface of the CV and is able to suss out, okay, this person is actually capable and this person is not. And that has been a tried and tested way of me knowing this is someone that is going to work in the team. The other important aspect is actually having existing staff members in the interview when you're employing the next person. And that has helped because you are trying to keep the same sort of ethos, the same sort of value system, and they would have a different insight into that interview than you would have. And you must also remember that that particular person is going to be working with them more closely, and spend more time than you would. So you have to make sure that it's the same value system is created and everyone is an equal player in the hiring process. It's not as a hierarchy where I'm in charge and whoever's there is less important. And that's the ethos, and that's the value system that's created. So that really helps. So it's very, very, very difficult to hire correctly. I think you have to spend time, and if you get a recruitment company, it's money well spent at the end of the day, because my personal experience. So you have to be plugged in. So you have to be involved with the medical networks. You have to be able to attend conferences and see what's the latest out there. I have a theory that for me to be progressive, I have to be the first. In South Africa, that's pretty easy because I make an effort of traveling to Europe every 6 months or sooner than that. For as many conferences as I can. In the UK, it's also important that if there's a new device and a new treatment out there, you need to try to step up and be able to be the first to explore it. And you have to be open to change, have to be open to looking at different ways of improving treatment. You can't be doing the same thing for the next 5-10 years. There has to be improvement. So you have to embrace that. And I think that type of culture has done me reasonably good, in that I've been able to grow my practice in that way. And I've been, you get renowned not only from patients, but from the medical fraternity as being, okay, he's tried that already, and that's what he does now. And you become a reference point. So that's the idea. I think there's definitely room to keep adapting and keep growing.